So you've clipped your models for the sprue, you've removed the mould lines. Now what? Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, the third episode in my Back to Basics series aimed at total beginners. The couple of first videos we removed the models from the sprues, we've cleaned up all the mould lines. And in this episode I want to have a chat about glue, which is going to help us in the next stage of building our models. Okay, so you've scraped off your mould lines. You are ready to build your marines. Now I'm going to cover building in the next video, because in the next video I want to talk about conversions and show you a few conversions that are available to you, and some other things which go hand in hand with building models. But first of all I just want to have a talk about the glue. So as you probably already know, if you've been into a Games Workshop store or your local hobby store, then there are basically pretty much two glues available. You have your plastic glue and then you have your super glue. Now super glue can come in different forms. You can get super glue gel and you can get standard super glue on like either a brush or in some form of applicator. Now of course there is a third glue, the PVA glue or white glue, but you wouldn't necessarily be, well, you wouldn't be gluing plastic or metal or fine cast resin. You'd be using one of these two glues. So how do these glues work? Well, let's start off with the plastic glue, which is this one here. Now the idea of the plastic glue is, let's just get some bits. I'm not actually going to glue anything, but I just want to show you. So let's say we've got this bolter here, and I've got this hand arm, and I need to glue these together. Now these are obviously plastic. So the way the plastic glue works is you put a small amount of plastic glue onto this piece of plastic, and you put another small amount of plastic glue onto this piece, and then you leave them for a few minutes. Not too long, a couple of minutes would be fine. What happens is the glue effectively burns into the plastic and makes it go gooey. And then after a couple of minutes you can put these two together, and then the plastic almost bonds with each other and becomes quite solid. You are still able to move, so if you put the hand on and you want to rotate it, you are still able to do that at the beginning. Plastic glue takes quite a while to dry, so you've got some time to manoeuvre the bits and pieces, but effectively that makes a really strong bond. It almost makes the two parts of plastic mould into one, and it does make your models very strong. So that is plastic glue. Now super glue, which is this one, goes in between your two pieces that you're gluing, and basically becomes solid and just sticks them together. It doesn't burn into the plastic in this case. Now super glue typically is used if you're gluing together metal models, and also if you're gluing together resin models. Now what type of super glue you use, that is a personal preference. I've actually gone through many configurations of super glue, the gel glue, you know, different makes, the Games Workshop glue, cheap glue, they all really do the job. It's finding one that you're happy with, one that has a nice applicator that you like. This particular Loctite glue that I've got here has a very nice long like applicator, which is really good for getting into small parts. Obviously it is a lot quicker to dry, but having said that, if you're gluing metal together, it does take some time. So what I do if I'm gluing metal together, I actually get some blue tack, and I put the blue tack in a position where I can hold the metal together, and then just leave it there, because sometimes it will take a good number of hours to actually dry the super glue, especially if you're putting on a good amount of super glue to make sure you get a really good bond. So that's what the two glues are designed for. Now having said that, you don't necessarily have to use plastic glue on plastic. I know a good number of people, including myself occasionally, not always, to actually use super glue on their plastic models. And the reason for that is where super glue doesn't necessarily bond the two sides together, it means that if in the future you ever need to change anything, it's a lot easier to snap those off effectively without damaging the model. Now, I've experienced this with my Space Wolves army where I've maybe had to change the arm. So I'd have the arm on. If I glued it on with super glue, I can just literally snap the arm off. It will snap off at the shoulder joint. If I've used plastic glue, that does not snap. You try breaking that and it will just snap at the elbow joint or something where it's not even glued. So super glue does have a use when you're using plastics, especially for maybe in the future where, say, you've glued a plasma gun on and then plasma guns aren't any good anymore. You might want a grav gun. You know, you can easily snap them off. But I these days like to use magnets. Now I'm going to make a video specifically on magnets. So I tend to still use plastic glue for my models, but it is an option to use super glue, and obviously super glue on plastic does dry a lot quicker. So if you're doing a quick build, maybe you've just got an afternoon to build something, you don't want to wait for the plastic glue to dry. That's another reason why potentially you could use super glue. Now sometimes what happens is your super glue applicator will get ruined. Maybe you've got one of those brush super glues where the brush can get ruined. So just a little tip that I do if my super glue comes in that's one of those particular states. What I would do is I'll find a little pot, maybe like a Pringles lid, and then rather than using the applicator, I'd actually tip some super glue out onto the Pringles lid. And then I would grab myself a little cocktail stick and actually dip the cocktail stick into the super glue and then use the cocktail stick to actually apply the super glue to the actual model. And that works really well, especially if you're gluing something very small. Potentially if you're gluing something which you've just painted and maybe you're gluing it together after you've painted it. Let's say you're going to glue on a head, for example, quite a small area, rather than getting this and like splodging on and it goes everywhere, or a brush or something, you can use this cocktail stick and actually precisely put that glue into position. So I think that's it for this video on glue. As I said, there are an array of different glues. Just find one that suits you, that works for you the best. There you go. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one.